Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and happy new year. Please feel free to let me know in the comments how this year is going for you so far. For me, the start of the year was a little rocky, so I'm just trying to remain positive. I hope that everything gets better. It will. I have faith that it will. So today's video, we are going to be talking about my unpopular finance opinions. This video was inspired by Picky Girl Travels the World. She did a video on this and I really wanted to do my own take on it because yeah, I feel like a lot of my opinions people are going to disagree with. So before we even get into it, I want to let you know that these are just my opinions. I'm not trying to persuade anyone to think like me. People have the right to their own opinion, okay? So if you disagree, that's fine. And also feel free to let me know some of your unpopular finance opinions. I had to give that disclaimer because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to give bad advice or anything of the sort. This is just a conversation, okay? So before we get started, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. Okay, my first unpopular opinion is that acting broke will keep you broke. I saw this meme one time that said the best way to see a lot of money is to act broke. There's nothing wrong with a budget, but having that mindset of like acting broke and only getting the things you need for survival will keep you in that place for a long time. It wasn't until I started acting with an abundance mindset and acting as if money would come right back that I started to see a lot more money. When I was living in survival mode and holding on to everything I had, money did not flow. I talked about this before. I get what they're trying to say though, like don't spend a bunch of your money just because you have it. That does make sense, but I don't believe that you should act broke. Just act your wage, act your income, but don't act broke. Even if you are broke, don't act broke, all right? Carry yourself as if money is gonna come back. Just don't be extreme. I saw this video. If you all are familiar with the FIRE movement, then you probably saw it too. But it was this lady who ended up saving like a good $1 million. And she still doesn't buy things like ice cream for herself. She only freezes grapes and only eats grapes for dessert because she does not want to spend money on ice cream. I don't think that's the way to live. I feel like if you're doing that, you're really not living. You just alive at that point. I feel like you should treat money as a tool and not put it on a pedestal, to be honest. So moving on to number 2. Now this one, I know it's gonna piss people off, especially the renting is throwing away money. Your home is not an asset unless it makes you income or you're using the equity to invest in other things. Your home is not an asset just because you live in it. Even though I am a homeowner, I argue people down about this point all the time. I do understand there's a lot of benefits to having a home, but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about your home is an asset. No, it's not. This is gonna take a minute because I'm gonna have to break down the arguments that people give me and what I say in return. I'm not gonna talk about your mortgage being cheaper than rent and all of that. I'm talking about it being an asset. Focus on that, okay? The first thing I hear is, oh, well, your home can get equity, so it is an asset. Unless you're dipping into that equity, no, it's not. And most of the time when people get like HELOCs, which is a home equity line of credit and stuff like that on their home, they're doing it to do personal stuff. They're not using it to invest in another property and things of that nature. So again, it's not an asset. Most people who have the equity argument have not even dipped into their equity. The second argument I get is about appreciation. Your home is appreciating, so when you sell it, you'll make a good profit, blah, blah, blah. That's true too. However, once you sell the home, is it still your asset? No. You leveraged it, but it's no longer an asset of yours. You don't get to keep it. An asset is what you keep. So I think that people forget that part. I'm not saying that I'm against home ownership. I actually love it. I am team buy a home if you can. What I'm saying is it's not an asset just because you live in it. Just because you own a home, that is not making an asset. It has to be making you income or you have to be investing in equity. Either or. That's my argument. For me, my home is an asset because I've been house hacking since I bought it, right? So it's been an income property for me since I've had it. If you're just living in it and paying the expenses on the house, it is a liability. A liability is something that you spend money on. There's outgoing, there's no income, okay? So unless you make your home an asset, it is not an asset. I think we need to stop bashing people who rent, saying that they're throwing money away. And that's another argument too. How can y'all say that people are throwing away money when they rent? When usually when you buy a home, if you put down a low down payment like I did, I only did 3.5%, you're buying the house twice due to interest, okay? And here's a big argument, and I mean no offense, but this is something that really drives me up the wall. The generational wealth argument. And let me tell you why. There are people who are struggling to pay on their homes and are holding it for the sake of generational wealth. The price of generational wealth is not present poverty. You being drained and poor from this house is not gonna help you with generational wealth. I'm not saying everyone should just go sell their house if they're broke. That's not my point. But what I'm saying is we're so caught up in the your home is an asset mantra that we allow it to drain us a lot of times, especially in my community. But moving on, number 3, credit cards are great to have. I am a Dave Ramsey girl. That is what I used to become debt free. Once I paid off my debt, I literally was on the verge of cutting up all my credit cards so I would never be in debt again. However, I do believe that credit cards are a holy grail and it can really help you. You can leverage credit cards. I make at least $200 or more a year on one of my credit cards that I use for when I book hotels, etc. The problem is with credit cards, people spend money that they don't have. So that means that it's really not benefiting them, right? Because you're paying interest, etc. For me though, with the reward points, with the cash back, it makes sense. As soon as I get my bill, I pay it off in full. I do not carry a balance. Once you get to that point where you have that discipline and you have enough money to use credit cards, I say use them. But I do see people saying, don't get a credit card, it's terrible, it's the worst thing to have. No, it's really not. As long as you have discipline, you gotta have that first. But I love credit cards. I am team credit cards. I don't use a debit card for anything. I try to use credit cards for every single thing, everything. On top of that, the perks of credit cards is, let's say you spend money on something from months ago, right? You still have time to file a dispute if you do a credit card. With a debit card, I think you have like a good 60 days. But with a credit card, they will give you your money back. I love credit cards. Love them, love them, love them. What you want to do is find credit cards that give you 0% for 18 months, 24 months. American Express is really big on that. But yeah, I love credit cards. I love them. And I think that everyone should have them. And I think that people should use them. Like I say, use them properly. Number 4, I talked about this in my entrepreneurship update. But debt is not bad. Consumer debt is bad. Don't get me wrong, I don't like debt. The fact that I have so much debt right now, it does make me want to throw up. But I do think that you can leverage debt. There are people way richer than me with way more money than me that still uses other people's money. So if they do it and they got the money, why shouldn't I? I'm not going to go too deep into this because I already talked about it in my update. But yeah, I feel like you can leverage that. You just have to find what method works for you, you know. One day I'm gonna do a video on like the business credit cards that I recommend because yeah, like use other people's money. Number 5, unpopular opinion, is you may not need a course, you need discipline. I have taken over 15 courses and I did nothing. Please promise yourself to execute everything that you've learned. That is people's problem, not information. Honestly, a bunch of information is free out here from YouTube, Google, whatever. There's a bunch of free info out here. That's not what you need. You need execution. I keep seeing people say invest in yourself, invest in courses, which I do believe that, but it's more or less like act. Number 6, people gonna get mad about this one probably, but budgeting does not work. You cannot budget your way out of poverty. It is not the fault of you buying coffee. It is not the fault of you doing small things for yourself. What it is that you don't make enough money. I realized that once I quit my job because y'all know I was the budget girl. I was telling y'all need to do this, cut back on this. There's only so much you can cut back. And what about the people who don't buy coffee? Don't get me wrong. There are purchases that you may need to cut back on. I'm not saying that budgeting is just 100% not effective. I still have a budget even though I make more money, but I don't have a budget as a way to see money. I just make more money. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is the reason why I stopped doing budgeting content is because I realized that my budget was not a problem. My budget worked. I needed more income. Number 7, people argue with me about this on the TikTok, is that saving for emergencies creates emergencies. I do not believe in emergency funds. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in having a savings. I feel that saving for the bad in your life and only the bad that could happen is a lack mindset. I know people who would have thousands of dollars in an emergency savings and then money for nothing else. They don't have They don't have travel money. They don't have spending money. Money is to be enjoyed as well. And I think that people got a little bit annoyed with that TikTok because they were like, oh, well, you are supposed to save for emergencies. That's dumb. Why would you say that? You're supposed to have money for a savings, period. But to say emergency savings or rainy day fund, that's negative. You can have an emergency savings and still not have like a bunch of emergencies happen to you because of your mindset and the way you view that fund. When I had an emergency savings, I literally was obsessed over it. I didn't want to see it go down by 10 cents. I didn't even want to touch it. I was so afraid of that. My savings didn't get over $1,000. But once I changed the name from emergency savings to just savings, when I tell you, y'all know I was able to save $20,000. It's all about your perspective, okay? So there's nothing wrong with having a savings, but what I'm saying is change the way you view your emergency savings if you do have one. Here's another thing. After going car shopping, buying certified pre-owned is no longer makes sense, okay? At least right now, as of today. The used certified pre-owned cars cost as much as the new cars. It's not what it used to be. Back in the day, it made so much sense to buy a certified pre-owned vehicle because the depreciation already hit, you know what I'm saying? So it made sense, but right now it is not the same. To be honest, I wouldn't even buy a car right now. The only reason why I bought it was for business. And even now, I still kind of wish I didn't. I wish I didn't buy as many. But what I'm saying is a lot of people come to me and say, oh, you should buy used cars. But if you go to the car lot, you'll see what I mean. They cost as much as the brand new ones. If you're in the process of buying a new car, I say, wait. Here's a big one. My biggest pet peeve is seeing people say, Mark Zuckerberg wears a gray t-shirt. He doesn't wear chains. He doesn't wear da-da-da. Stop trying to find a way to make yourself feel relatable to millionaires and billionaires. People will say, oh, Warren Buffett still drives the same car. Warren Buffett is still a billionaire. There's a YouTuber, I forgot her name, but I'm gonna tag the video that she talked about this. But that whole millionaires are just like you, and I know millionaires who still drive a 2002. Who cares? Like, I don't even compare. I would never sit here and compare myself to Mark Zuckerberg if we had the same shoes. Cause we're nothing alike. Here's why I say this is a problem. People say stuff like that to validate why they and other people shouldn't have things that they truly want. Why people should not have their heart's desires. Why do you want a Lamborghini? This billionaire drives a Honda. I was always okay with giving myself the bare minimum because thinking about, oh, well, Mark Zuckerberg, well, Jeff Bezos, well, Elon Musk doesn't have blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. The reason why I say that's an unpopular opinion is because I constantly see memes of people showing a man with Crocs on and a plain shirt and then showing a guy who has on Gucci or whatever, and they're like, but the guy with the plain shirt and the Crocs, he's a billionaire, and this guy, he doesn't even have $1,000. It's just really ridiculous. Stop it. What they don't mention though is a lot of those t-shirts, they cost like $800. It's just plain looking to us, but it's expensive for them. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I actually really enjoyed doing this and just talking about my opinions and saying it out loud. But I do hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure that you let me know in the comments some of your unpopular opinions, and I will see you all in the next video.